Hello. Many stories around the world are not told plainly. Sometimes metaphors are used, other times the story is just what it is, and it is clear what they mean. Like when the Bible talks about that Satan drew 1/3 of the stars with his tail. The stars are said to be angels that fell and went with Satan. And draw, or drew, means to bring towards yourself, as in to draw a card, you take the card. I grew up listening to stories about the Dreamtime and used to watch them on television, so they are a part of me, and yes, I believe them to a degree. I'm not here to say they are right or wrong, and I'm not here to judge them. I am here to say what I think about some of them, and to say that they are worth thinking about, because I believe they do contain much truth. I've noticed that some are like stories from the Bible, and some other ones are like stories from other countries around the world. And I encourage you to learn more about them and other Dreamtime stories that exist, because they are very interesting and they do contain much truth. And there is a lot of culture there, to be honest. The Rainbow Serpent and Noah. One of the Aboriginal stories, there's one about the Rainbow Serpent, and that's the Rainbow Serpent in Australia was a really large serpent, and it was of many colours, I assume, and apparently it slithered across the earth, and it made the waterways, like the rivers and creeks, and I think that sounds a fair bit like the Bible story of Noah in Genesis 9:13. Talks about how Noah got his big boat, the ark, and put all of the animals on there, and he was in there for a while. I'm not sure how long exactly, but he was in there for a fair while, probably. And that's when the flood was going on, and the flood killed a lot of people and animals. And once it ended, God said to Noah that he'll put his bow in the sky, in the clouds, so that he can remember that the earth won't be destroyed by water ever again. That's the rainbow. And some Christians think that a lot of the creeks and rivers were probably formed by the flood water rushing off the land when the lands rose and the water levels went down. So it seems as though it's a fair bit like those two stories seem quite similar, with the rainbow serpent slithering across the land and the Noah's flood story with the rainbow. The rainbow, that's the thing that's in common, having the rainbow serpent and the rainbow in the sky, and it's water, talking about water with the creeks and rivers and the flood. So they seem as though that they're kind of linked in a way. It seems quite similar. The Dreamtime story about the earth being sang into existence. Aboriginals say that the Dreamtime spirits sang the earth into existence, and that sounds very similar to the Bible's story. The Bible says that God spoke the earth into existence. Now, how closely similar is that? You got the Dreamtime spirits that made the earth and they sang it into existence, and then you got God saying that he spoke it into existence. It's both using words, speech, coming from the mouth. Now, the fact that they're both so close makes me really raise my eyebrows. Very much worth looking at. The Dreamtime story about the moon being made of damper. It's a kind of bread type thing for those that don't know what damper is. Okay, this sounds like at least two stories that I know of. If you'd like to do more research, you could look up the host in Christianity, and you can also look at the story of Quetzalcoatl. I think that's how you pronounce it. I've heard people pronounce it so many different ways, but they're there written for you if you want to look it up. So the fact that there's at least two different stories that are so very similar, it gives credence to the idea. There is a Dreamtime story about giants coming to Australia from across the sea, and this also is very plausible because you see biblical stories about David and Goliath, and there's a lot more, and other texts such as Gilgamesh, the Epic of Gilgamesh, and a lot more. There's plenty of stories about giants, so it's not something that you should just dismiss and think, oh, giants or whatever, just ignore that. No, it's very plausible. Around the world, there have definitely been skeletons of humans that have been dug up, and those skeletons have been of people that were over 11 feet tall. The Kangaroo Waterhole. I'm not exactly sure what the true name of it is, but there is a waterhole in Australia that is said to have been made by a kangaroo. It is said that the kangaroo dug down and was throwing sand over himself to keep the flies away, and that's how the waterhole is made. We still see that the hole is there now, and it's got water in it. And I think that this could be true because it's a fact that archaeologists have found skeletons of kangaroos that are much larger than the skeletons you see today. Now, these skeletons that the archaeologists dug up, now this is true, you can look it up. The skeletons of the kangaroos are really massive compared to the ones we have now. And it's also true that some kind of dirt or soft clay or sandy kind of stuff, in the proper circumstances, it can turn solid. So the story may not be as far-fetched as what a lot of people think. It could be very true. And you see people, and they just blindly disbelieve it. I'm thinking, well, it's very plausible for it to be real. Okay, so that's worth having a look at, to be honest. The Devil's Marbles. The main thing that I'd like to say about the Devil's Marbles is that the Devil's Marbles are not the eggs of the rainbow serpent, which a lot of people believe. And this is actually coming from the proper Aboriginals that live there. They say they are not the eggs of the rainbow serpent. They're actually made when a big devil man was making a belt from human hair. The marbles are the hair wound into balls, the broken hair. That is the Dreamtime story. And I don't know, it could be true. It's possible. If they are made out of human hair, maybe they were sitting there for a long time and dust and dirt and everything blew into it, and over the years they solidified, because it is true. You can have soft dirt and mud type stuff. Not exactly sure what it has to be, but it does. You can look this up if you like, and it can turn into hard rock. So I'm saying that this is plausible. It could be true. I don't know. I think it's very interesting, and I will do more research. But I haven't heard of anyone breaking them open, and please don't do it. But I haven't heard of anyone doing any scientific study on them. I hope you have enjoyed listening to these stories, and they aren't intended to offend anyone. And I do plan on making some more, as long as it hasn't offended anyone. And if it has offended anyone, I'll not make any more, and I'll take these down. But in order for me to take them down, I have to see that the objection comes from someone that is credible, not just someone that wants to be silly and ask me to take them down who has no videos up or whatever, because any troll can come along and do that. So if you're a credible person and you are offended, I'll take them down. I believe that there should be no problem.